The wedding happened in a courthouse 3 weeks later, attended by lawyers and witnessed by strangers. Mira wore a simple dress she had bought on sale, cream-colored, nothing special, but new. That felt significant somehow, wearing something that was not worn down and reused and tired. Julian Grayson was taller than she had expected, his presence filling the small room like a hand filling a glove. Perfectly, inevitably. He wore a dark suit that probably cost more than a year of her father's medication, but his eyes were kind when they met hers. Nervous, maybe, but kind. The ceremony was brief, clinical. The judge read the words with the enthusiasm of someone who had done this 1,000 times. Do you, Julian Alexander Grayson, take this woman? Do you, Mira Elizabeth Voss, take this man? I do. The responses were quiet, almost lost in the sterile air of the courthouse. When he slipped the ring on her finger, a simple platinum band that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe, his hands were steady. Hers shook. It is just business, he murmured, low enough that only she could hear. You are safe, I promise. But when the judge pronounced them married and Julian leaned in for the perfunctory kiss, his lips brushed hers with unexpected gentleness, and Mira felt something she had thought long dead flutter weakly in her chest. Careful, she told herself. This is not real. You are still invisible. This is just a different kind of disappearing. The penthouse he brought them to, her and her father and the medical team Julian had somehow assembled in 3 weeks, occupied the top 3 floors of a building in Tribeca. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city like a promise. The evening light poured through the glass, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. Mira stood in the entrance, unable to move, unable to process the transformation from the crumbling Voss mansion to this palace in the sky. Your father's suite is on the 2nd floor, Julian said, his hand hovering near her elbow, not quite touching. I had it equipped with everything his condition requires. There is a full-time nurse on staff, a physical therapist who will come 3 times a week, and I took the liberty of setting up a small library. I noticed he had a lot of books by his bedside, mostly history and philosophy, so He stopped, uncertain. If I overstepped, I can change anything. Mira could not speak. She followed him down the stairs to the 2nd floor, where her father was already being settled into a room that did not look like a hospital room, despite having all the medical equipment necessary. It looked like a bedroom, a beautiful bedroom with windows that let in actual sunlight, a comfortable chair for reading, and yes, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves already filled with leather-bound volumes. Malcolm Voss's eyes were clearer than she had seen them in months as the nurses positioned him carefully. He looked at Julian, then at Mira, and something passed between father and daughter. Gratitude, hope, and the weight of 6 years lifting just slightly. Thank you, Mira whispered to Julian. Do not thank me yet, he said, but there was a slight smile at the corner of his mouth. Let me show you your room. Her own suite was on the 3rd floor, connected to Julian's by a shared living space, but completely separate. It was decorated in soft grays and blues, sophisticated, but not cold. The bed was enormous, covered in linens that looked like clouds. There was a sitting area, a bathroom with a tub large enough to swim in, and a walk-in closet that was currently empty except for the few items she had brought from home. And there, positioned in front of the window with a view of the city that took her breath away, was a piano. Not just any piano, a Steinway Grand, its surface gleaming like dark water, its keys pristine and perfect. The last rays of sunlight caught on its polished surface, making it glow. She found Julian in the kitchen, making coffee with the focused intensity of someone who needed the ritual. The piano, she said. He looked up, and for the first time, she saw him uncertain. Too much? I can have it removed. I just thought, you said you used to play, and there is space, and it is perfect. Her voice cracked. It is the most perfect thing anyone has ever done for me. Something shifted in his expression, softened. Good. That is, good. They stood there in the enormous kitchen of their fake marriage, 2 strangers who had legally bound themselves to each other. And Mira realized that invisibility came in many forms. Julian Grayson, for all his wealth and power and commanding presence, looked profoundly alone. Why are not you married for real? She asked impulsively. You are successful. You are. She gestured vaguely at him, obviously not hard to look at. Why this elaborate scheme? He smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. You would be surprised how many people want to marry Julian Grayson the billionaire, and how few want to marry Julian Grayson the person. It gets hard to tell the difference after a while. At least with you, I know exactly where we stand. It is refreshingly honest. Dishonest honesty, she said. We are lying to everyone except each other. The best kind of relationship, some might say. He handed her a mug of coffee, prepared exactly how she liked it, which meant he had paid attention during one of their phone calls when she had mentioned her preference absently. Mira took the coffee, their fingers brushing briefly. That flutter in her chest stirred again, and she firmly crushed it. 1 year, she reminded herself. This is temporary. Do not get attached. Do not hope. Do not forget you are still the invisible girl who gave up Juilliard, who lost herself in service, who does not get the fairy tale. But later that night, when she finally sat at the piano and let her fingers find the keys, tentative at first, then with growing confidence, she played the Chopin Nocturne. The muscle memory returned, like breathing, like coming home. The notes filled the calmness of the penthouse, filled the empty spaces inside herself. She did not see Julian standing in the doorway of the living room, watching her with an expression that suggested this business arrangement might have just become complicated for both of them. This is where everything changes. Mira is finally playing again, stepping back into her light. If this moment touched your heart, let me know by hitting that like button. Comment below. What dream did you give up that you wish you could reclaim? Your story matters. Subscribe to Mr. David Loves Stories because Mira's transformation is just beginning. And trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. The first month of the marriage passed in a strange dream. Mira woke up each morning expecting to find herself back in the crumbling mansion, back in the gray routine. But instead, she woke to sunlight and silence and the knowledge that her father was being cared for by professionals, that Garrett's debts were paid, and he was grudgingly attending therapy sessions, that she had enrolled in a certification program for music therapy. Small changes accumulated. She slept past 4 in the morning for the first time in 6 years. She bought clothes that actually fit, that were not chosen for their ability to hide her. She let her hair down, literally and figuratively. She started seeing herself in mirrors again, instead of avoiding them. Julian kept his distance, professional and polite, but there were small gestures that undermined the careful boundaries they had established. Fresh flowers appeared in her room every Monday. Concert tickets were left on the kitchen counter, 2 tickets to the Philharmonic, with a note in his handwriting, "Thought you might enjoy this. No pressure." She went alone the first time, but the seat beside her felt conspicuously empty. The second time, she asked him if he wanted to join her. "I thought you would never ask," he said, and something in his smile made her heart do dangerous things. Their first public appearance came 6 weeks into the marriage. A charity gala benefiting arts education, black tie, Manhattan's elite. Mira's terror was a living thing in her chest. "I cannot do this," she told Julian the morning of the event. "All those people, all those eyes." "Stay with me," he said, his hands on her shoulders, steady and sure. "I will not let you disappear. I see you, Mira. Let them see what I see." The stylist and makeup artist he hired were gentle, asking her preferences, working with her instead of trying to transform her into someone else. The dress she chose was midnight blue, simple, elegant, with lines that made her feel like herself, but elevated. When she looked in the mirror, she saw someone she almost recognized. Not the invisible girl, not a stranger, but something in between. Someone emerging. Julian's expression when she came down the stairs was worth every moment of anxiety. He looked at her like she had stolen his breath. "You look," he started, then stopped. "You look like yourself. Beautiful." At the gala, walking into the ballroom with Julian's hand at her back, Mira felt the weight of 100 gazes. But this time, the looking did not feel like judgment. People were curious, interested, seeing her not as a woman who did not belong, but as Julian Grayson's wife, as someone who clearly mattered to a man who mattered. "Who is she?" she heard someone whisper. "Where did she come from?" Julian leaned close, his breath warm against her ear. "They are wondering how I got so lucky. Let them wonder." Halfway through the evening, the host asked if anyone would volunteer to play the piano that sat unused in the corner. A Steinway, coincidentally. Mira felt Julian's eyes on her. "You do not have to," he said quietly. But she wanted to. For the first time in 6 years, She wanted to be seen, wanted to be heard. She walked to the piano, aware of the room's attention, and sat down. Her fingers found the keys, and she played, not the Chopin this time, but Rachmaninoff, Prelude in C-sharp minor, powerful, complex, full of everything she had felt and survived and overcome. The room went silent, except for the music. And when she finished, the applause was thunderous. Julian's expression from across the room was pride and wonder, and something deeper, something that looked dangerously like awe. In the car ride home, neither of them spoke at first. The silence was full of everything they were not saying. Mira noticed their hands were intertwined on the seat between them. She could not remember who had reached for whom. "You were incredible tonight," Julian said finally. "I was terrified," she admitted. "No one could tell. You looked like you belonged there." "Maybe I did," she said, surprising herself. They arrived at the penthouse, and the elevator ride to their floor felt charged with something electric. At the door to her suite, they both hesitated. "Mira, this arrangement," Julian started, his voice rough. "It is still just business for you, right?" Her heart was pounding. "Of course. Why?" "No reason. Just checking we are on the same page." But his eyes told a different story. They were not on the same page anymore. They both knew it, but neither was brave enough to say it. The weeks that followed were a careful dance of avoidance. Mira threw herself into her certification program, spent long hours with her father, practiced piano until her fingers ached. Anything to not think about the way Julian looked at her, the way she had started looking for him when he came home from work, the way the penthouse felt empty when he was not in it. Julian worked longer hours, took business trips that probably were not necessary, maintained the careful distance they had agreed upon. But sometimes, late at night, she would hear him in the shared living space, and she knew he was listening to her play. Month 5 of 12 arrived with the changing leaves in Central Park. They were approaching the halfway point, and the end was beginning to feel less like freedom and more like loss. The confrontation came on a Thursday evening. Mira had been declining his invitations to dinner, avoiding eye contact, pulling back into old patterns of invisibility. It was safer there, in the shadows, where hope could not hurt her. Julian found her in her room, staring out at the city. "What happened?" he asked, and there was frustration in his voice, confusion. "Did I do something wrong?" "No," she said, not turning around. "Then why are you avoiding me? Why does it feel like you are trying to disappear again? This is business, remember?" She turned to face him, using his own words as a weapon. "Your words. That was before I knew you." He stepped into the room, and she saw that he was done with careful distance, done with pretending. "Knew me?" She laughed, sharp and defensive. "You do not know me. You know the version I am playing for your charity events. I know you play Chopin when you are happy, and Rachmaninoff when you are sad. I know you take your coffee with too much sugar because you told yourself for 6 years you did not deserve the sweetness. I know you cry on your father's good days because they remind you of who he used to be. I know the way you tilt your head when you are thinking, the way you tap your fingers against your leg when you are anxious, the way you light up when you talk about music therapy. I know you, Mira. Do not tell me I do not know you." Her walls were crumbling, brick by brick, and she was terrified. "This was not supposed to happen," she whispered. "I know," he said, closing the distance between them. "But it did. We have 7 months left on our contract," she said, but her voice was shaking. "What if there is no contract anymore? What if this is real? What if I am still that invisible girl inside? What if, without all this," she gestured around the penthouse, "without you, I disappear again? You were never invisible, Mira. The world was just blind. But I see you. I have seen you from that first phone call, from the moment you tried to sound confident, but I could hear the tremble in your voice, the strength it took to make that call, to fight for your father, to not give up even when you had every reason to. You are the least invisible person I have ever met." She felt tears on her face, hot and unexpected. "I do not know how to do this. I do not know how to be someone's wife, for real." "Neither do I," he admitted, and there was vulnerability in his eyes that matched her own. "But I want to learn, with you, not because of a contract or stock certificates or family legacies, because you are the first real thing in my life in years. Because when you play piano, I remember what beauty sounds like. Because you make me want to be seen too. The kiss was nothing like the courthouse. It was everything. It was terrifying and perfect and real. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Mira felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, about to jump. "What happens now?" she whispered. "Now," Julian said, his forehead against hers. "We stop pretending. We tear up the contract. We do this for real, if you want to. No expiration date, no business arrangement, just us. I am scared. Me too. But I am more scared of letting you go, of watching you walk away in 7 months, and spending the rest of my life wondering what if." Mira thought about the girl she had been, the invisible girl who gave up everything. She thought about the piano that sat silent for 6 years. She thought about all the ways she had disappeared, and all the ways Julian had helped her remember how to take up space, how to be seen, how to matter. "Okay," she said. "Okay, let us be real." 1 year later, almost to the day, they stood in the same courthouse. But this time, there were witnesses who mattered. Her father, in his wheelchair, eyes clear and proud. Garrett, 6 months sober, working in an entry-level position at Grayson Industries and fighting every day to earn back trust. The nurses who had become family, a few close friends they had made together. The judge was different, but the words were the same, except this time, when Julian slipped a new ring on her finger, when she did the same for him, when they said, "I do," it meant everything. At the reception afterward, small and intimate in the penthouse that had become home, Mira played the piano for their guests. Chopin, because she was happy, because she had found herself again, and in finding herself, she had found him. Her father managed to stand with the help of his physical therapist, managed to raise his glass in a toast. Too, he struggled with the words, but they came, to being seen. To being seen, everyone echoed. Julian pulled her close as she finished playing, as their friends laughed and celebrated around them. "You know what the best part is?" he murmured against her hair. "What? I get to spend the rest of my life making sure you never feel invisible again. And I get to do the same for you," she said, because she understood now. He had been invisible too, hidden behind wealth and walls and the weight of expectations. They had found each other in their invisibility and made each other real. 6 months after that, Mira started her position as a music therapist at the hospital where her father received treatment. She worked with patients who had lost their voices, literally and figuratively, helping them find sound again, find themselves again. Every patient was a reminder of who she had been and who she had become. Julian continued to run Grayson Industries, but he left work at reasonable hours now. He attended her recitals when she played at small venues around the city. He learned to play piano again, badly, just so they could fumble through duets together that ended in laughter. Garrett found his footing slowly, painfully, but genuinely. The trust fund Mira had insisted on gave him stability without enabling him, and for the first time in his life, he had to earn things. It was hard, but it was real. Malcolm Voss lived to see his daughter truly happy. He never fully recovered from the stroke, but the care he received gave him quality of life, dignity, and the joy of watching Mira bloom. When he passed 2 years later, it was peacefully, surrounded by family, his final words to his daughter clear enough to understand. "You lived. Proud of you." Mira's story is not about a man saving her. It is about a woman who sacrificed everything finding the courage to save herself. Julian did not make her visible. He simply refused to look away, and in his seeing, she remembered how to see herself. True partnership is not about transformation. It is about recognition, about two people who refuse to let each other disappear. If you have ever felt invisible, know this: you are not. You have never been. The world may be blind, but that does not make you unseen. You matter. Your dreams matter. The parts of yourself you put away to survive, they are still there, waiting. It is never too late to remember who you are. It is never too late to take up space, to make sound, to refuse to disappear. Mira Voss went from invisible to unforgettable, not because she changed who she was, but because she remembered, and in remembering herself, she found everything else. Mira Voss went from invisible to unforgettable, not because she changed who she was, but because she remembered. If this story inspired you, if you believe in second chances and finding yourself again, show some love. Hit that like button, subscribe to Mr. David Love Stories for more transformative tales, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment and tell me, What is the dream you are ready to wake up? What part of yourself are you ready to reclaim? Maybe you gave up art because life got hard. Maybe you stopped singing because someone told you that you were not good enough. Maybe you made yourself small because it felt safer than taking up space. Whatever you put away, whatever you buried, it is still there. It is still yours, and it is not too late. Remember, you were never invisible. The world is just waiting for you to make some noise. Be like Mira. Pick up that instrument, open that book, make that call, take that chance. Your second chapter is waiting, and it is going to be beautiful. Until next time, keep believing in love, in yourself, and in second chances. This is Mr. David Love Stories, reminding you that the best transformations are not about becoming someone new. They are about remembering who you always were.